Hello and welcome to Weekend Investing Daily Bites. Today is August 11th. We are shooting episode number 71. We've been doing this framework for ideal investing series this week, and in chapter 1 you saw the importance of long-term runway for your strategies, and in chapter 2 we talked about the various setups or the makeup of the strategies of in terms of position sizing, in terms of other aspects of how to do asset allocation, etc. Today we will talk more about some biases and some other factors which will sort of complete the framework, and then we'll go to behavioral issues, etc. Possibly tomorrow. Let's come to the market first. So markets were, as we have seen in the last few sessions, small caps were pretty badly hit in the last few sessions, and today also the small cap index dropped to about more than 3% at one point of time, but it recovered towards the end of the day and closed about 1% lower. Pharma stocks were more in the red today. Other than that, a lot of the larger caps were not impacted, as Nifty and Bank Nifty were not really net impacted. They did fall during the midday, but there was more or less a very good recovery in both those indices, and metals and commodities continue to run unabatedly. So as we can see here on the Nifty, on the CNX 200, even on CNX 500, there was hardly any change, but the major changes were in mid and small cap index, small cap 250, small cap 100. All those were in the red, between 0.5% and 1%. In terms of weekend investing small cases, MIATH2, MIMT all cap, MI30 were hit between 0.25% to 1%. LTCNX 200 was also hit by 1%, but other strategies were minor gainers, and MI25 was surprisingly plus 1%. Overall, in the last week has been pretty red, both on the small cap indices as well as for many of our products, and this is part and parcel of the market. As and when it gets overheated, these are self-correcting measures in the market. Now, a lot of new investors got jittery, and we got a lot of email, etc. About the falling stock prices. So my submission, as always, is that don't look at it in a short-term basis. Know that the strategy will be able to take you out of any drawdown over time. At least it has done so in the past many times, and these ups and downs are a part of these market cycles, and you need to be appropriately positioned. So if you are in a risky or high risk sort of strategy, then you should only expose that much amount of your portfolio to it, and have most of your portfolio in more secure strategies, because every strategy has a different volatility and different focus, and high risk strategies will obviously have very high volatility and high returns as well as higher drawdowns. So, and every one of us is made very differently in terms of our makeup. Some people can sustain a lot of drawdown and still be all right. Some people cannot sustain even a few percentage of drawdown. So we need to adjust accordingly and be positioned accordingly. So let's talk about the framework today for ideal investing, as we are calling it. So in the first chapter, you saw how long-term running of a strategy can help you smoothen out the volatilities that we otherwise feel in the short term to be very, very significant, and how over a longer period those aberrations or those short-term major events look like minor aberrations on the long-term chart, and your CAGR also smoothens over time. And then in chapter 2 we saw a lot of impact of how basically position sizing matters, and also we saw how other impacts such as the casino math, how you should have more in terms of more even if you have lower winning ratios, each winner average winner could be much higher, and that's how you win the game. Then you could look at asset allocation and how you are placing the assets within the equity space and outside the equity space. And of course then we talked about how rule based investing or non-discretionary investing can reduce the emotional burden that we have during investing. So today we will talk about the importance of compounding. We'll talk about something called the disposition effect, and we'll just in general talk about what is discipline and how discipline impacts our investing. So in importance of compounding, I mean these are all material or subjects which are already known to you. This is nothing new for anybody, but what you can see is that, of course, Albert Einstein called it the eighth wonder of the world, and he who understands it earns it, he who doesn't pays it. So it is compounding is basically reinvesting the profits that you earned and allowing time to generate wealth for you. So the compounding takes place in a non-linear fashion. So while our brain is hardwired, most of us, to think linearly, the actual compounding happens exponentially, and that's where the mismatch between what we expect and what can actually happen comes big time. So you may not be expecting, but if your strategy is going right, and you are able to do multiple let's say trades, and you're getting the right winning percentage and the ratios, you may not be expecting, but the equity curve will go in an exponential fashion if you continue doing that. Of course then there are issues of scale, etc., then that we have to take care. But just to give you a very simple example, here we have taken a investment of 5 lakhs and CAGR of 15%, and we've calculated it across 30 years, which is usually the sort of life cycle many investors have, or even more than that. But let's say you start earning and deploying capital by late 20s, and then by the time, let's say, you are nearing your retirement, you have 30 good years, or maybe even 40 years for a lot of people in today's world. But the impact of compounding is such that even a CAGR of 15%, and let me sort of pause here for a second and say that CAGR of 15% is not less. A lot of people, especially in a bull market, will sort of brush aside strategies that can give over a longer period, let's say 12, 13, 14, 15% CAGR. 15% CAGR is fantastic, and if inflation is, let's say, 3, 4, 5%, and you're able to do 15% CAGR, you are already far ahead of what you are trying to beat. And so at 15% in 5 years, your capital goes to 10 lakhs, then 20 lakhs in 10 years, 40 lakhs in 15 years, 81 lakhs, 1.6, 3.3 crores by the year 30. Of course, if this 15% is coming on top of inflation, then in today's rupee terms, you reach 3.3 crores. So if your net of inflation CAGR can be 15%, that is absolutely outstanding. So that is something that we should all try to achieve. However, even a nominal 15% CAGR with reasonably benign inflation is a very, very good number to achieve. And this chart itself is showing you that the compounding kicks in later, but it kicks in very hard. As also you must have read that Warren Buffett has made something some 90% or more of his wealth he achieved after the age of 50. So the exponential curve goes very, very steep towards the end. So we need to get our system right. So whatever you are doing, I'm not saying you should do one system versus the other, but whatever is the way of your winning in the market, first of all you should be winning, and second is that whatever is your way of winning in the market should compound over time. So over a period of time that compounding should take place, and you should be able to get that hockey curve going up. The disposition effect is again something all of you know. So it is defined as it's the tendency of investors to hold on to assets that have lost value and sell assets that have gained value. And we see that this is done by a lot of people. So stocks come down and maybe they are not going to go up in a hurry. People will keep sitting with it, and then once they do start to go up, even the ones which came down, then we get out cheaply. So we miss. So there are two impacts of this. One is that let's take an example. Let's say it's a market favorite example. Let's say ITC. So ITC has not performed in this entire rally, while the rest of the stocks or most of the stocks have. Now what has happened during this time is that the person who's holding it, and if he's holding in larger concentration, is possibly feeling a huge emotion of having this baggage and watching everybody else doing so well in their portfolio, or at least growing over the years. And unless you have that conviction that this is the company which is going to make me the richest tomorrow, and a lot of people don't have that conviction. Once they see that 2 years have gone by, 4 years have gone by, 6 years have gone by, they will give up. And the real test is when it actually starts to go up. If it will, you may find that 90% of those people who sat through that basing period of 6-8 years, as soon as it starts to go 20, 30, 40% up, they will get out, because there is no framework of how much to hold it, how long to hold it for, when to exit. There is no framework. So you got in because you thought it was a good stock, and it may be, but there is no framework of how to enter and how to exit. And we talked about this yesterday, what to buy, when to buy, how much to buy, and when to sell are the core sort of questions that you should be asking. So coming back to disposition effect, so it basically starts from belief when you are sort of at the shallow end, and then it goes into hope, optimism, belief, thrill, euphoria, and then there is a big correction, and then it starts back up again, and then you say, okay, this is just part of the bull run, and it will go back up again, and complacency sets in, and you put in even more capital, and that's where that bull market may end, and then you have anxiety and denial, and you will not sell even when the market is coming down. Then you will be panicking, and then there's capitulation. Capitulation is when you throw in the towel and you say, okay, I'm done with this market, or I'm done with this stock, and I'm never coming back. And then you are angry with yourself, and you're angry with the market, and then ideally it takes a longer time to just for the stock to consolidate, or the market to consolidate. All the weekends, whatever, over time they get depressed and they get out, and once the market starts to go up again, then there is disbelief again. So again the same cycle starts. So we need to have a framework to break this disposition effect, wherein we are not getting unduly excited if the stock goes up, or we are not getting depressed if the stock goes down, because we know according to our framework we will get out at a certain time, whether it is a fundamental framework of earnings, or is a technical framework of some stop losses, or some ranking based methods like we do in momentum. So if your framework is good, so think of it like a building. So like the framework is the foundation and the structural elements. If that is sound, then you don't fear living in that building. But if there is no framework, or at least if you don't know that there is any framework, then all the time you will be thinking what happens if an earthquake comes, whether I don't know if this building is safe or not for me to live, so on and so forth. So once you have that surety of the structure in place, you have a very nice sound sleep after that. So the next point is about discipline. I think one of the most important aspects of investing, and less said about this is not enough. And for discipline, basically discipline tests you in many ways. Even if you have that framework, you will be somewhat at the crucial parts of that framework, or at the crucial exits or additions in that framework, be questioning yourself again and again. If am I doing this right? Is my system doing it right? Maybe my system is failing, maybe my strategy is not correct. So over time, when you will trust a system, you will fall into a disciplined manner, and then you will sort of, in a military like fashion, you will be able to execute without having any emotion in it. And a second part of this discipline is that, or maybe the first part is that the discipline itself is the key to your success much more than the strategy. So I always say that strategy is maybe like 20% of the game, and discipline is 80% of the game. If I give you the strategy on a platter, and if you don't have the discipline, even then you will not be able to make money out of it, because the strategy may ask you to buy at a high, and if you don't have the discipline, or if you don't have the mental framework, then you will not be able to buy at a high or sell at a low, for instance, or things of that nature. So the sort of next corollary in this is that we always think that simple things are easy, but having a discipline and executing a simple strategy, that should be good enough for at least beating the market, I think. So you don't need to go for complex strategies, because complex strategies, we as humans, we like complex things because it makes us feel that this is important, this is complex, and this must be really good. And simplicity or simple things, we just brush aside that what is going to happen with this simple formula, everybody knows it. But you will be surprised that simple things also work very well. But the downside of simple things is that simple is not easy. So just like we go to our morning exercise regime, for instance, it is very simple to say just go out and jog for 60 minutes every day or 30 minutes every day, and your health will be fine, more or less. You will be able to enjoy your life if you just give 30 minutes of your daily time out of 24 hours to your body. That is so simple, and it's just the golden rule for having a good life. But is it easy? You and me know that it is not easy, and we need discipline for it. We need to discipline our brain that we need to allocate 30 minutes of this time, and we need to push ourselves out of the house or onto the treadmill and actually do that. So while it is a simple task, but it is not easy to do. So simplicity is equal to easy does not work, and hence discipline is where you need to train your brain, is that I need to do these simple things and make them easy for my emotional self to execute. So that's how the discipline and the simplicity of your strategies will come together, and you will over time be able to do simple things. See, one thing you must appreciate is that when you have complexity in your decision making, let's say you have exit rules based on some fundamental factors, about management, about earnings, about industry scenario, about overall foreign fund flow into, or about sector analysis, or about vendor data. So many variables. Now one or two of these variables start to go haywire. How will you calculate whether your framework still exists, whether you should exit or not? Because there are so many moving parts to it. So when you will be pushed against the wall and you will be stressed about it, price also you are seeing is going down, how will you take that decision? Because there is no structure to that decision making. It is all based on very independent modules of information that you have, but it is not simple to get them together and give you a decision. That's where the most complex of decision making will fail. So say having simple decisions, simple framework, and doing it with discipline, I think is the best way to make your framework of your investing. So I'm just giving you an example here about drawdowns. Also, this is relevant since we saw a lot of people suddenly feeling that the market has come to an end and we have to jump off the ship, etc. today. So just look at these drawdowns. This green line is MIMT all cap, this orange line is MIATH, and this black line is the CNX 500 index, and we are basically looking at the period of January to July for last year when the COVID crash came. Now you can see that from 1st January till about mid of February, these strategies were up 8-9% and the index was flat, and then suddenly there was a fall from 100, it went down to 63. So there was about a 37% fall in the index, whereas the strategies went from 112 to 89, so about 20-25% fall here. So these falls, although were unnerving, but if you had the discipline, if you knew that your framework will work, and if you were having simple decisions to make, you were able to get out here, sit through cash, and then get deployed and win again. If you were not doing that, just see where the index reached after 7 months. It was still minus 15%, whereas the strategies were nicely in the green, or at least somewhat in the green. So the idea is that we should allow ourselves to get into a discipline, have simple strategies and execute them. And along with all the other things that we've talked about the framework, tomorrow we will talk more about biases and those kind of behavioral issues, and that will tie in these entire all topics that we have covered so far this week, and you'll be able to then make a simple framework for yourself in terms of your investing journey. So this is all that was there for today. Thank you for watching, and see you in another video. Bye.